someone in my family should have died from COVID-19. Let me repeat that, since it might be as hard for you to hear as it is for me to say. In my extended family of 10, at least one of them should have passed away from the virus. Most all of them should have at least gotten the virus, yet none have gotten sick, which means no one has been hospitalized, no funerals for us. I think most families would be pleased to have this track record, but when you take into account our demographics, including location, political preference, income, and education, the magnitude of this accomplishment becomes much, much larger. I'm Kendall, it's Friday, October 8th, and this is Kendall Writes a Story. As you might know, I hail from the natural state, also known as the great state of Arkansas. My entire extended family lives there. I have both my parents, 2 sets of grandparents, a brother and an in-law, and 2 uncles. That's 10 folks total. Let's go through the demographics together. Also, as a note, this is not cherry-picked data. This is my full family. It's just a coincidence that there's 10 of them. Now, looking at demographics. Of the 10, 1 has a college degree. 1 has some college, and the remaining 8 are high school diploma or lower, as far as education. In politics, while I don't have access to my family's voter registration, judging by the conversation we have at the Christmas dinner table, as well as social media activity, it's safe to say that 8 to 10 are all right-leaning, with varying degrees. And finally, income-wise, all 10 make less than $90,000 per year. Why is this important? Because these metrics directly track with those of the folks who are either unvaccinated or have been infected with COVID. Let's look at it. So I haven't told you yet how many folks in my family are vaccinated and how many aren't. I will, but before I do, let's see what it should be based on statistics. In June 2021, 68% of the state of Arkansas was not fully vaccinated, which means 68% of my family should have not been fully vaccinated, right? If my family is randomly chosen, if there's no other factors involved, 68% should be not vaxxed. But hey, there's lots of other demographics happening too, so that may change that number. Let's look at those. The following data are also from June 2021. In this study that I'm about to quote, unvaxxed folks were asked if they were some form of likely to get vaccinated or definitely not likely. Here are the results. Folks with some college or less, like 90% of my family, made up 82% of the definitely not category. Folks aligned with the GOP, like almost all of my family, 67% definitely not gonna get vaccinated. Folks less than $90,000 in income, which is my entire, all 10 people of my family, 68% definitely not. White folks, all 10 of my family, 70% of respondents in this study said they were definitely, or 70% of respondents saying definitely not gonna get vaccinated were white. Looking at the numbers above, this is actually a pretty tight cluster, all around 65 to 70%. I think it's safe to say that my family, which almost universally fits into all of those categories, education, demographics, politics, location, income, should undeniably be around 65 to 70% unvaccinated. 6 or 7 out of those 10 people should not be vaccinated. Would you like to see how many are? 1 is unvaccinated. 1, maybe. And just because that person hasn't confirmed, so we presume they're not, but we're not sure. The other 9 have been fully vaccinated since June. 9 people that meet all of these demographics that say they should not be vaccinated have been for months now. This shouldn't be so. The odds are absolutely positively stacked against us, and this isn't coincidental. The centralization of vaccine-resistant folks among the nation's poorest, least educated, and most vulnerable populations is a direct result of politicized fake news and disinformation being spread to the country's conservative corners. We all know this, it's been documented, it's real. Politicians looking to win an election and media companies looking to make extra money from selling fear and lies are doing this, and in most cases, it's worked. But it didn't have to. As I've shown in my family, it didn't work. We didn't let them in. So what did we do differently? Something very simple. So simple, you're probably going to laugh or roll your eyes in between a scoff when I tell you. We talked. That's it. We did. We talked to one another. We talked early. We talked often. If I had to put a structure around it, I'd say we had 3 main rules. First, we were firm and clear with one another. From day one, I got on the phone with my parents way back in February of 2020 and told them exactly my fears with the virus. I told them what I thought, and they listened. At the same time, maybe before, maybe after, I'm not sure, they got on the phone with the extended family, my brother, my grandparents, and they did the same. We're not a bold family. We are very much live and let live. So trust me when I say this level of firmness and clarity is not a natural thing for us. We really had to dig deep down somewhere to get this. But we were worth it to one another, so we did that. Second thing we did was we stayed open. We continued talking. We didn't have just the one call and call it done. We kept talking. Remember, these are the days where we didn't really know what was happening. We didn't know what was real, right? One day masks were needed, and then they weren't needed, and then they were needed again. And then these are the days when we sanitized after touching plastic bags. I even put open later than notes on envelopes when I sent them out because we didn't know if the virus could live on surfaces for weeks at a time. And through all of this, we stayed in touch with the science and the truth by talking and sharing what we learned. My dad, would send an article. I'd read it, and then we'd get on the phone and talk about it. I'd find another article, and I'd share it with my mom, and we'd have virtual drinks and appetizers, and we figured out what was right and what was true. We kept it open. We kept our minds open, but firm in our desire to find the truth. And the final thing, the third thing we did was we focused on goals, not specifics. I remember a funeral for an extended family member, a great uncle, that happened last spring. Despite this happening during an outbreak in Arkansas way before the vaccine, and the absolute guarantee that most everyone at this funeral would not be distancing or masking, despite all of that, a certain grandparent of mine was dead set on going, which I absolutely understand, and I probably would be as well. We tried to talk them out of it, but when it was clear that that wasn't going to happen, we refocused on the goal, which was keeping them safe. It was supposed to rain, so we scrounged up cheap umbrellas so folks wouldn't have to huddle under a tent. They could span out, right? My parents, bless them, ran interference, keeping folks away from my older, more susceptible grandparents. I mean, literally, the stories I heard was that they were literally like pushing people away, putting arms out. My grandparents and parents were about the only ones masked and distanced at the funeral. And they got flack from the family. Everybody was making jokes, in a lighthearted way, but it worked. No one got sick. When that grandparent insisted on going to this funeral, instead of throwing up our hands and saying, whatever, your choice, we worked together to make it happen. So why does this matter? Because it's replicable. These conflicts happen every day and at every scale. Whether it's a disconnect between two political parties or in your own brain between your ego and your id or your left and your right hemispheres, these disconnects happen. They are a part of life and they have to be resolved. History and our own experience has shown us time and time again that the only way to resolve these differences is to talk with one another, to communicate, to share information, and find that shared reality that we all have. What that doesn't mean is backing down on your morals. Communicating doesn't mean kumbaya, everything's gravy, I just won't say anything. Remember, our very first step was to be firm and clear. If someone or something is causing harm, tell them clearly and firmly. Do not back down. Do not let injustice rule the day. But be open to what they have to say. Remember, just because something is crystal clear to you does not mean it is to someone else. They have different experiences and lives that tell them different things. That doesn't make them a bad person. It makes them not open to the information you have. And the only way to solve that is for you to communicate and share that information. That's the only way. Listen, we're in an odd spot, socially, politically, the whole works. We've got two halves that honestly seem to despise each other, resent one another, wish the other wasn't there. And I just cannot and will not accept that the way to fix that is to continue not talking. Maybe we have to actually change and relearn how to communicate in a way that allows us to stay firm and clear on injustice, that allows us to stay firm and clear about what is moral, what is right, what is acceptable in society. We can have these conversations, and we have to. We must. This has been an editorial written, produced, and directed by me, Kendall, here at Kendall Writes a Story. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope it meant something. Thanks, and have a great day.